meeting to order, and I'll begin with our land acknowledgement. On behalf of the board, we acknowledge that York Region is located on the traditional territories of many Indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis peoples, and the treaty territories of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, the First Credit Nations, and the William Treaties First Nations. Today, this area is home to many diverse Indigenous people, and we recognize their history, their spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as our First Nations community, closest neighbors. Today, we get to swear in a new board member. And before I ask, Dan's not here. Dan's running. Guess what? It gives a politician a minute to welcome him. So let's begin by saying I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Dr. David Bodenstein to the York Regional Police Services Board. Yes. So I'm going to refer to you for this only a couple times because after that you're board member Bodenstein. But Dr. Bodenstein earned his honors bachelor's of science, and is a PhD doctor. And Dr. Bodenstein is committed to patient advocacy and community engagement through mentorship with Big Brothers, Big Sisters Toronto, and various fundraising initiatives, including the Ride to Conquer Cancer with Princess Margaret Hospital and the Trek Everest with the Markham Stouffville Hospital. We are delighted to have you join the board, taking the place of your much beloved mother. I truly miss her. She was a great advocate for all and an incredible board member. I had the honor to sit in negotiations with your mother, and she was very knowledgeable and relevant in terms of bringing forward the needs of the community. So to all the members of the board, let us continue to work together, united in our commitment to providing exceptional police services to our residents and ensure York Region remains one of the safest communities in Canada. By working together, we can overcome the challenges ahead and maintain the high standards of policing that our community deserves and quite honestly expects as well from all of us. So thank you. Welcome. I'm going to give you the floor for 2 seconds. So there's a little button there. Yeah. Now pull the mic down towards you.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I can't wait to get started and learn more about the board and the police services. I've had a chance to attend PAN and the recruit graduations, and it's been an honor, and I can't wait to get started. Thank you.
Well, welcome. So with that, I'm going to go through a couple others. So disclosure of interest, we're going to come back to you, sir, for your official swearing in. Any disclosures of interest? I'm going to ask Vice Chair Jackson and Member Purcell to confirm the public meeting minutes of April 23rd. Any questions? Any errors, omissions? All in favor? That carries. At this point, I'm going to slip in another little comment before we go to a presentation. And I'd like to wish Deputy Chief Almeida the very best on his upcoming retirement after 37 exceptional years of service. Throughout your career, you have been an outstanding representative of York Regional Police. And on, I guess it was a week ago, all the days kind of blend. We had our recruit of 34 new officers, and I stood up there and I talked to them about professionalism, compassion, and passion. I even brought my little flag from the Leafs and I hung it on the podium and said, you've got to bring this every day. My joke was, I said, if you want an example of how not, it was in the day the Leafs lost 6-1. I said, that's an example, but you got to bring it every single day. And you know what? You've brought it every single day. You've been a great role model for all. So, on behalf of the board, congratulations, Al. Yeah, Chief first, Al.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, board members. Dr. Bodenstein, welcome to the board. Looking forward to working with you, as we all are. I have notes to speak about Al, but I don't need them because, you know, when you work with a leader like Alvaro has been for his 37 years here at YRP, it's pretty easy to talk about, as painful as it is to lose Al from our executive leadership team. You know what he's brought to this group, instant credibility, passion for the job. I'll use your words, Mr. Chair. Enthusiasm, understanding of the needs of our members so we can better support the communities that we all serve. You know, a zest for policing that, and I was having this conversation, and I'll use Al as a reference for this. You know, when our young people who are looking up in our organization want to see what it means or what it takes to get to certain areas in an organization, they need to see people that they aspire to be, right? And or to be like. And I think for every frontline member of our organization, every member that has done an high level investigations, has relationships across the province and provincially and nationally like Al does, they can look up or they can look up when Al was in the seat and still is until the end of June or mid-June, and really be inspired that that's what it takes to get there, because Al's been a true professional for as long as I've known Al, which is, like I said, probably the better part of 35 years. And I have never had a bad day with Alvaro Almeida. It's been an amazing ride. It's been a great friendship for many, many years. And I wanted to add a little bit of the personal stuff here just because that's how much he means to me personally and to the organization. So Al, on behalf of all of us, I know there'll be more to say on a different date. So I will say the plug for that date is, Karen, June 19th? June 19th at Sheridan Parkway, 6 p.m. Be there, be square. But that's the date if we want to get it in calendars to say a lot more. But Al, for everything you've done for YRP and for us as a team, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to stand beside you many, many times and have some real discussions about what we need to do as an organization. So well done. Congratulations to you and your family. Well done.
Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chair, for your kind words. I have to look back on 37 years in this amazing organization as one of the best decisions I ever made in my life to become a member of YRP. Every day has felt like a new challenge. It's never really felt like work, to be honest with you. And it's just been great to grow up in this organization with so many amazing people, and there's so many amazing members coming up behind me. So I wanted to say thank you very much for the board support in appointing me to this position. It's been truly to be introduced as the Deputy Chief of the Investigation Branch in YRP is truly the most humbling title that I've ever had, but I've worn it with the greatest pride. And I want to thank you for giving me that opportunity. I will never forget that. On a lighter note, Chair, I would suggest that in the future, you might want to lead off with a quote like Inspector Steer did with a Montreal Canadiens goalie, if you want to inspire winning. But I really do appreciate the fact that the board members do come to welcome the new recruits. I think it's so important for them to hear from you, because often our people don't feel that they have the support of the community, and we are blessed in this region to have the support not only of our board but of our community in general. And we'll be internally grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kuzmak, your turn. You've got some work to do.
I do. It is my very great pleasure to formally, I'm just picking the suitably solemn pen with which to sign this important document that we're going to sign. Welcoming our newest board member. Our newest board member, David Bodenstein, who joins us. We're going to complete the oath of service. And so I will join you over there if that's okay. Do you have a copy of the oath? Outstanding. I have a copy of my glasses. So, proceed. Would you kindly stand?
Yes.
And repeat after me if you would. I, David Bodenstein, solemnly affirm
I, David Bodenstein, solemnly affirm
that I will uphold the Constitution of Canada,
that I will uphold the Constitution of Canada,
which recognizes and affirms
which recognizes and affirms
Aboriginal and treaty rights of Indigenous peoples,
which recognizes the
at-
which recognizes and
yeah.
affirms Aboriginal and treaty rights of Indigenous peoples,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge my duties as a member
discharge my duties as a member
of the Regional Municipality of York Police Service Board,
as a member of the Regional Municipality of York Police Service Board,
faithfully, impartially,
faithfully, impartially,
and according to the Community Safety and Policing Act,
and according to the Community Safety and Policing Act
2019,
2019,
any other act,
any other act,
and any regulation, rule, or bylaw.
and any regulation, rule, or bylaw.
If you could so solemnly affirm and sign where indicated on both copies, please. You now having made this solemn affirmation, I welcome you on behalf of the board and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, Chief. Item 6.1, a 2023 to 2025 Inclusive Policing Action Plan Year 2 update.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. 6.1 is the presentation, and it goes hand in hand with 9.7, which is the Equity and Inclusion Strategy Annual Report. This report is for the board's update, the Year 2 update, as outlined in the York Regional Police Inclusive Policing Action Plan, included as an attachment for you as well. There will be a presentation, so I'll have Deputy Hammond introduce the team here, and they'll carry us through the presentation and answer any questions you might have. Deputy.
Good morning. Thank you, Chief. And good morning to everyone, members of the board. Through you, Chairman, I would just like to give a warm welcome and introduce our presenters today. You're going to hear a term, our IDEA office. And just for the purposes of clarification, IDEA stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility. It's more than just an office, but it's a bureau that sits within our PLEO, which is, police love their acronyms, Professionalism, Leadership, and Inclusion Office. So it's my pleasure to introduce our presenters. So Dr. Sarah Rogers and Dr. Andrew Snowball, they oversee this area and they do a lot of the research and the work with our members. So I'll just turn it over to you and take it away.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chair Pellegrini, members of the Police Service Board and YRP Executive Leadership Team. Thank you for this opportunity to update the board on YRP's Inclusive Policing Action Plan. In this presentation, we will provide a brief overview of the Inclusive Policing Action Plan, share key accomplishments achieved in 2024, which represents year 2 of this plan, provide an update on YRP's racial equity work, and share next steps for YRP's work in the area of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. So just by way of a very quick recap, the Inclusive Policing Action Plan is a 3-year plan informed by the insights from several sources, including the previous Inclusive Policing Action Plan, the Police Services Board report on anti-Black racism, our internal data collection and reports, and consultant recommendations. The overarching objective of this plan is to enrich inclusive practices for our members in the community. In this way, the plan advances the objectives outlined in YRP's organizational strategic plan, which aims to strengthen inclusion, belonging, and trust within the community and organization. More specifically, the Inclusive Policing Action Plan outlines the various actions and initiatives that YRP is undertaking or will undertake over the life of this plan to advance inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility within the organization and in our delivery of services to communities. So towards this goal, the plan identifies 4 pathways through which we can advance inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, or IDEA, as we refer to it commonly. The diversity pathway focuses on leveraging diverse perspectives, identities, and experiences to improve service delivery and representation for our members and community. The equity pathway aims to promote fairness and a culture of inclusion for members and community partners through equitable systems and practices. The training and education pathway focuses on supporting members' awareness, knowledge, and skills to improve conduct and decision-making. The accessibility pathway aims to further support members of all abilities through enrichment of policies, programs, and initiatives related to wellness and accessibility. Dr. Snowball.
Thank you very much. And so by way of background, as we're aware of the 2020 to 2022 Inclusive Policing Action Plan, a core aim of this plan is to coordinate our IDEA initiatives across York Regional Police, as well as to foster collaboration across our diverse units and bureaus towards the aim of becoming a more inclusive organization. So just to highlight some of the accomplishments in our last year of the plan, as it relates to diversity, a core focus here was on increasing the diversity of our members and leaders across the organization. One of the things that our organization did very well last year was to increase events aimed at targeting diverse members of our community to become employees of YRP on both sworn and civilian side. We really do highlight the need for our membership to represent the diversity of our region. And in that way, we've targeted recruitment events towards equity deserving people in our community, specifically women and racialized people. One of the other things that we've been doing very consistently as an organization is collecting data about our members, specifically our sworn members. And we do have monthly diversity reports that we call them, that we assess and evaluate to make sure that we're on track and we're holding ourselves accountable to these commitments. Another thing that we've been doing very consistently over the years, and that is tied into our Inclusive Policing Action Plan, is working with our internal support networks. So we do have 9 internal support networks at YRP, and these are based on identity groups, whether it's East Southeast Asian members, Christian members, working parents and caregivers, members with restrictions. So we have these 9 internal support networks that advance the work of IDEA across the organization, and we work with them to make sure we're becoming more inclusive and promoting belonging within the organization, which does tie to our business plan as well. As it relates to equity, we are in the midst of an equity audit. If you recall from our last year's presentation, we have onboarded a consultant. The consultant has continued their work with our members on an equity audit. This is focused on both our employment systems and our service delivery. The consultants did a long, deep dive into our documents. They did a jurisdictional scan of other police agencies, how they're operating from an inclusion lens. They've also talked to our members. They've talked to people in the community, and we expect this year, very soon, we'll be receiving their report based on the findings of the equity audit. So another thing that we've been doing is enhancing our work with community. So while the Inclusive Policing Action Plan does work to support our members, we're also supporting our members to serve the community better. One of the things that we've been doing over the last couple of years is trying to enhance collaboration with a group that we call the Committee for Action on Racial Equity. This is a joint committee, YRP committee, that is driving a lot of our work through the equity audit, through race-based data collection, as well as what I'll speak to in a minute, which is our Racial Equity Action Plan, which we do hope that this board will get to take a look at later this year. We've also hired an ombudsperson in the last year, which we are relying on to enhance the confidence of our members, to address workplace concerns, to resolve complaints, do an early resolutions approach to complaints within the organization, which is quite new and unique across police agencies in Canada. Very importantly, and 2024 was a highlight for our unit, is the advancement of training and education towards more inclusive practices within our organization. The Addressing Racism training, which you may or may not be familiar with, we did advance this work throughout 2024. As of yesterday, we have nearly 1,200 of our members trained. This is an in-person mandatory training program, again, unique across Canada. No other police agency is doing this work. Our team is very deeply invested in facilitating this training, and we've had quite favorable commentary from our members. We do have nearly a 100% uptake on our pre and post course evaluation from our members, and we do get quite favorable ratings from our members about the importance and the value and the impact of this training in particular. We also do training around accessibility and workplace safety, as well as wellness for our members. And another factor we wanted to address in the training space is all of our newly promoted sergeants and staff sergeants are run through what we call an inclusive leadership training session, which really is a IDEA 101 training for our members. And again, we get really great feedback from our members about the applicability of this training into their roles as newly promoted sergeants and staff sergeants. And lastly, for the accessibility pathway, we are focused on member wellness and really the wellness of members' families as well, recognizing all of the various points of intersection that our members experience based on their identity, based on maybe being part of an equity deserving population, and looking at the ways that our organization can better support our members in their day-to-day lives. Another piece that we've invested in 2024 is the accommodations project. This is looking at all of our policies and practices as it relates to workplace accommodations, members working with restrictions, and we look forward to presenting more in depth these findings in the next presentation to the board. We also continue to work with our Working with Restrictions internal support network. These are members with disabilities or who have accommodations. They are advocates for accessibility within the organization, so we continue to partner with them and our other internal support networks to advance IDEA within the organization. Relating specifically to racial equity, as this is the priority of the board, we know the work that the board has done with Dr. Kwasi Owusu-Bempah around anti-Black racism. Our Racial Equity Action Plan, as I mentioned, is really a transformative landmark investment in racial equity for a police agency. We have developed this collaboratively with our Committee for Action on Racial Equity. We've taken the recommendations given to this board through Dr. Owusu-Bempah, as well as our two other reports received on anti-Black racism, to craft a plan that is responsive to community feedback, that is responsive to our accountabilities through our legislation, and really does drive racial equity for the organization. In addition, the equity audit is really deeply enmeshed with this Racial Equity Action Plan. A lot of our deliverables we're expecting from our consultants do relate to fairness and equity in our hiring and promotional practices, looking at member supports, and as well as the needs of our community. Connecting to the notion of race and identity-based data collection, we are working with Dr. Kwasi Owusu-Bempah on building a framework for YRP, which looks at both, again, our employment systems, fairness in hiring and promotion, diversifying our membership, as well as equity in our service delivery. So we're looking at using data to better assess outcomes, impacts, and accountability for the police in working with community, as well as our Addressing Racism training. As I mentioned, we are nearing the halfway point with our membership, but at this point next year, we expect to be complete with that training and can expect continued favorable responses from our members about the impact of that training, as well as continuing to work with the ombudsperson who is situated within our PLEO office at YRP.
Thank you. So overall, our work in 2024 ensured that we achieved several goals associated with our inclusive policing action plan. And our work in 2025 will further advance these goals. There are several core priorities for next year, for the current year, excuse me, including implementing recommendations from the equity audit across both employment and service delivery systems, enhancing our community collaboration through broadening the membership and function of the Committee for Action on Racial Equity, implementing the rollout of the Ontario Police College's thematic training, which includes an Indigenous awareness component, as well as continuing to deliver our addressing racism in policing training. And finally, continue to work with our Working with Restrictions internal support network, action recommendations from the accommodations project, and advance YRP's work on accessibility. So this concludes our presentation. Once again, thank you, Chair and members of the board, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Members of the board, any questions? If not, I'm going to ask that we receive the presentation and bring forward the report 9-7. So I'll ask Member Cartalucci and Member Faisal, any comments, questions? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. We have 3 communications here, 81, 82, 83. Any member wish to speak to? Thank you. Seconded by Member Purchell. All in favor? That carries. Items for adoption. The chief wishes to speak to 9-4 and 9-8 and 9-11. Are there any other that members wish to pull?
9-5.
9-5, sir. Thank you. So with that, a motion to adopt the ones that weren't pulled. Member Cartalucci, Member Faisal, that would be 9-1, 9-2, 9-3, 9-6, 9-9, 9-10. All in favor? That carries. 9-4, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you and to the board. This is a brand new report that's never been before the board before, so I thought it would be prudent for us to at least explain this report because you will see it in the future under the new CSPA, the new Community Safety and Policing Act. So I'll have General Counsel Jason Fraser just walk you through the report and what it contains. Jason.
Thank you, Chief, and through you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the board. This is a new report. You're used to seeing a biannual report on the outcomes of discipline hearings where our officers have been disciplined, and that was under the Police Services Act. And you'll still probably see 1 or 2 of those as we deal with some legacy matters where the Police Services Act applies. But there's a significant difference between what we'll be reporting under the Community Safety and Policing Act and what we were reporting under the Police Services Act. By regulation, we will now be reporting the aggregated disciplinary measures, so the measures that are imposed on officers, broken down by individual heads of misconduct under the Code of Conduct, and broken down by individual districts and service areas. So for the first one, there's not much in the way of statistical analysis because we have nothing to base it on. One of the difficulties that we have going from the Police Services Act to CSPA is that the Code of Conduct was completely rewritten, and what we have to report is very much different than the Police Services Act. So it's difficult for us to compare discipline under the PSA with discipline under the CSPA. So for this report, we're starting at square one. In future reports, we'll try to do more analysis in terms of tracking trends as we build those trends. But otherwise, this report lays it out. And just the last thing I'll note is the way discipline is dealt with under the CSPA is also different. One of the reasons why there's a different reporting requirement is under the former PSA, the chief would make a decision whether misconduct was serious or not of a serious nature. Serious misconduct went to a hearing, and in turn, if there was discipline, that was reported to the board. Misconduct that was not of a serious nature was resolved informally, and we did not report that to the board. Under this new process, the chief can resolve without a hearing any discipline that is resolvable by way of the discipline punishments that are outlined in the report. So up to the forfeiture of hours. If the chief is of the view that the officer should be demoted or should be terminated, then the chief has to apply to OPAC, the Ontario Police Arbitration and Adjudication Commission, to get an adjudicator appointed for a hearing. If the officer doesn't want to accept the penalty that the chief is seeking to impose, then the officer can seek a hearing through OPAC. So the process is a little different, and like I said, going forward, we'll start crunching these numbers a little more to give you a little more analysis and trends. But for now, for this first report, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. Any questions? Yes, Member Bodenstein.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering, I noticed in the analysis that there's between the 5 districts, at least, there's a bit of a discrepancy in the number. Is there a reason that 5 district is an outlier? Is there any sort of insight into that? Why that's so much higher versus 1 through 4?
At this point, it being just the first 6 months, I don't know. 5 district is a larger district. Between like 5 and 4 are the 2 largest districts, so you're going to see a discrepancy. As you see in the, a lot of it, late or absent without authorization or failing to comply with procedures. The majority of the misconduct was minor in nature. So this is something that we're certainly going to track. But I think we're going to need a longer period of time to determine whether it's a trend or whether it's just an anomaly for those 6 months. Because I can say, roughly looking at the previous PSA, or Discipline of the Police Services Act, this does seem to be an outlier. It's just not that easy to compare because, like I said, you can correlate what's insubordination in one act to the other, but it's hard to do a direct correlation because the wording is different for both codes of conduct.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I will ask Member Purchell, Member Cartelucci to move receipt. All in favor? That carries. 9.5, Member Faisal.
Okay, on page 44, the analysis show the board had an expenditure of $500,000. And then on page 49, I see page 46, I see is 308,000 was for the professional fees. My just question is, what kind of professional services are we rendering under police board?
Thank you very much. Through the chair to Member Farzal. There's a series of professional services that the board renders, but it's actually expenditures relating to professional services received. In the first quarter of this year, I believe that there was some Deloitte costs. I'll just refer it over to Anitra should there be additional comments, but that's my understanding of the expenditures that the board's incurred.
Through the chair to Member Faisal, those expenditures were to, with respect to the board's obligation as the employer to run a compensation structure review as well as job architecture review for all of its employees. So it was fairly comprehensive. We did engage directly with YRP's People, Wellness and Talent and Finance to help support that so that going into our bargaining activities, we had a better understanding of our employer obligations from a fiscal point of view with respect to that.
Okay, thank you very much.
So with that, sir, you'll move it. And Member Cartelucci, you'll second. All in favor? That carries. 9.8, Chief.
Yes, through you, Chair. This is, as you can see, a board report that we bring every year about in relation to forfeited offense-related property, proceeds of crime, Crown Law Office, civil matters. I'll have Deputy Almeida just give you a briefing on this report because for new members, it's important to understand how we seize money and how this money gets dispersed. So, Deputy.
Thank you, Chief, and through you, Chair. So this report outlines the method in which law enforcement and the government seize cash and assets that are used or gained by the criminals through their involvement in illicit activities. It describes how the assets are managed, converted to cash, and distributed to the federal and provincial governments in accordance with the Forfeited Property Sharing Regulations and the Civil Remedies Act. The total amount of cash and assets transferred by YRP to the Public Prosecution Service of Canada, the Police Services Board, the Canada Revenue Agency, the Crown Law Office, Civil, and the Ontario Ministry of the Attorney General for the provincial fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025, amounted to $5.5 million, $5,575,000 and $318 to be exact. And between that time, YRP received $100,000 from the Proceeds of Crime grant program for the following initiative, which was Project Unite, which was for hate crimes and hate bias incidents. It's important to point out that when these, the way the funds are broken down. So for federal Proceeds of Crime funds, the monies are returned to the province of Ontario are split. And the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services receives 75%, and MAG, well, the Ministry of the Attorney General, receives 25%. For successful provincial Proceeds of Crime prosecutions, the MCSCS receives 60%, and MAG receives 40%. None of these funds come directly to YRP or to any other police service involved in the seizure of the goods. YRP can only access these funds through provincial grant opportunities. That, subject to any questions, that is the report.
Thank you, Deputy. Any questions? So with that, I'll ask Member Cartalucci, Member Faisal to move in second. All in favor? That carries. Chief, 911.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And through you, as you can see, this is a proposal for the acceptance of donations and sponsorship. So just that the board receive the report in accordance with the board's governance and donations and sponsorship policy 0202, and that the board approved the in-kind donation from Mr. Jeffrey Royer. So for those that may or may not know, Mr. Jeffrey Royer is a managing partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I met him several months ago, and he brought forward an initiative sort of like a First Responders Appreciation Day for YRP members. Thought it was a great idea, and he actually attended our Police Appreciation Night because he wanted to see what YRP was all about. It was his first real interaction with us. Was so impressed that, as you can see in the report, he wanted to host this day, but also now wants to ensure that many of the Police Appreciation Night winners get invited as well. So it'll be a great day, really for the community again, to once again thank our members for all the hard work they do. A lot of our frontline members, we want to make sure attend that day. And yeah, it's just a very nice, kind gesture. I will add that Mr. Royer is the chairman of Balin Tech, a provider of wireless antenna solutions. And I just want to assure the board that there is no conflict of interest here. There's no work being done by that agency with YRP. As I mentioned prior to my meeting with him, there wasn't an established relationship at that point. So just a good news story and something I would fully support. So subject to any questions you might have.
Thanks, Chief. Any questions? Great gesture. Moved by Vice Chair Jackson, seconded by Member Purchell. All in favor? That carries. There is no unfinished business. Upcoming events, they're there for your calendars. I'm sure they have been sent out, correct? Perfect. And then a motion to convene into a private meeting. Member Cartalucci, Member Faisal, all in favor? That carries. We will go into close.